Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. I grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. Today we're going to be going over Wrath of the Lich King once again, but we're going to be looking at the pre-patch that has been released and has a release date, and we're also going to be looking at sort of the beta and where they are in that stage. But as always, we do have the weekly news for you. So the weekly retail news are as follows. The world bosses for this week are Mortanis, Morgeth and Antros. Mortanis being located in Maldraxxus, that's the one. Morgeth being in the Moor, and Antros in Zereth Mortis. Antros being the fated world boss for this week, as well as the fated raid being Sepulchre of the First Ones. The event for this week is Legion Time Walking, as well as the enlisted bonus for PvPers. So you get extra honor, as well as a little bit extra conquest for your arenas, your battlegrounds and stuff like that. And you also have Legion Time Walking, where you can spend your Time Walking badges, do your Mage Tower if you wish. You know, you can do many different things, but there's definitely a lot of goodies to get with your Time Walking badges. The mythic affixes for this week are Bolstering, Explosive, Tyrannical and Shrouded. Bolstering is when a mob dies, it will empower the others with a 20% damage and health boost for 30 seconds, I believe. So either kill them all very quickly and all at the same time, or just don't pull that many mobs if you don't have that greater AoE. Explosive, make sure these die very quickly. If one is to detonate, make sure you're LOS of it, or you help your healer recover afterwards, because these do really hurt and you do not want any of these being popped. Tyrannical is also on this week. This is very much for the bosses. Make sure you got a little bit more single target. So the bosses will have, and the minions that they spawn will have increased damage and health. And as always, it is Season 4 still, so Shrouded is our seasonal affix. This is once again where a Dreadlord will be hidden in amongst all of the different mobs throughout the dungeon. Killing this Dreadlord will give you a bit of stats. That's very simple. The brawl for this week is Temple of Hot Mogu. So 2 orbs, I believe, and you can throw the orbs to each other, and you know, it's not too bad. It's very quick compared to the original Temple of Kotmogu. Battleground. So it's not too bad, and obviously with the enlisted bonus, you get a lot more honor and conquest for the week. The spell that we're going to be looking at this week, and the history of it, is Innovate. So Innovate was originally in World of Warcraft, through Classic, all the way to the current game now, and this is how it has changed throughout the years. So in 2006, patch 1.1, it got its first change, and this spell is now a base ability for all druids. It is trainable at level 40. Any druid who formerly had the Innovate talent now has the Swiftmen talent instead. And Innovate was a level, or you had to have 31 points in the Restoration tree to get it. And Innovate was just so good, I would imagine, that you had to go into it. So this was obviously switched with Swiftmen, and they gave Restoration Druid Swiftmen, which makes sense. Burning Crusade, Innovate moved to the Balance tree, making it castable while in Moonkin form, which is very, very good. We all love them sort of quality of life changes for Boomkins. Patch 3.1 in 2009, the spell no longer costs some mana, which, you know, is very good, because there are times where you actually run out of mana and you cannot cast Innovate. So it's a bit detrimental to just stand there for about 5 seconds, get a little tick of mana, and then Innovate. It's not fun. The next change, it came in patch 3.1.2, so a very small patch about a month later. This ability has been redesigned to grant 450% of the casting druid's base mana pool to the target over 20 seconds. It was previously based on Spirit. This was a really good change. This was the start of a really good change for Innovate. It made it very, very useful. The next change came in 3.2 a few months later. Its duration has been reduced to 10 seconds, the cooldown reduced to 3 minutes. This means with each use of Innovate will give half as much mana as before, but obviously it will be available twice as often, so it's a more spammable ability, kind of like Celestial Alignment in retail. It's that sort of cooldown. It's not too bad, not too bad. Then in Cataclysm, patch 4.2, 2 years later, now grants an ally target 5% of his or her maximum mana over 10 seconds, but still grants 20% of the druid's maximum mana over 10 seconds when self-casted. So this meant that it was more of a I will cast it on myself type of thing, more than you would give it to any sort of friendly target, which is definitely not the way that they kept this. In Mesa Pandaria, it saw its next change a year later, patch 5.0. It now causes the target to regenerate 10% of the caster's mana instead of 5% of the target's mana. Additional self-mana regeneration reduced from 15 to 10%. So, again, it kind of got nerfed. It wasn't great, and it's a set amount of mana. It isn't specifically, based on a mana pool, which, doesn't necessarily mean it's much. It doesn't really necessarily give it much impact as it did in the previous iterations of it. Patch 5.4 was the next change. This was a year later. It now restores mana based off the druid's spirit. So it went back to, again, another spirit-related spell. It is another spirit-related spell. And then it was just removed. A year later, in Warlords of Draenor, it was gone. It was absolutely gone. But 2 years after that, when Legion hit, it was re-added and redesigned. It now allows a friendly target to cast spells without spending mana for 10 seconds. This is the way that it stayed through all of Legion, Battle for Azeroth, and Shadowlands. And I think this is the best way that it can stay, in my opinion, because in a PvP setting, having anything that regenerates your mana is very good, whereas this makes it more of a cooldown that you can use at a good time in order to get your healer to expend no mana at all in like a really high, mana sort of intensive fight burst window. It's very good to use it within this sort of area of the map or game, purely on the fact that you can save a lot of mana in doing so and the other team at the same time if they don't have a druid of their own. So that is Innovate in a nutshell. It's gone through a lot of iterations. I quite like the Wrath version, where it's based off of like the druid's base mana pool and stuff, and you can sort of, play around with it. You can have a bit more mana to give Innovate a bit more of a purpose. You can have less mana, therefore it's not as big of a cooldown, etc. But it's there. It's there at least, and it is back in the game, and it is a very much a staple point of druids as a whole. Innovate. So having it removed in Warlords of Draenor isn't the best. It's it's class diversity. It's a very unique spell for druids. So we will start off with the beta and currently what they're looking at doing, what they've fixed, what's happened in the beta, and then we will obviously be going on to the pre-patch when that releases and stuff like that. So the beta test release build, the latest one came out on the 17th of August, and this is the build for 45166. This is what the build is. So they're testing Wintergrass now, is available for testing. The zone is open for exploration. When we initialized the instanced battleground, it will support up to 120 players from each faction. We may lower the capacity for testing purposes, obviously. They'll probably increase it as and when the release date gets closer and closer. Strand of the Ancients is now available for testing as well. Strand of the Ancients not being in World of Warcraft since, I think, Legion time. Yeah, I think it was taken out around Warlords of Draenor. I think there was a lot of pruning around that sort of, lifespan of World of Warcraft, because you had the level squish and everything as well. Or the first level squish, I believe. No, the first one came in Battle for Azeroth? Oh my god, I can't remember. No, new models came in Warlords of Draenor. Yeah, the first level squish came in Battle for Azeroth as you were level 120 when Legion dropped. So the Ring of Valor, the Orgrimmar Arena, is now available for testing as well. This one was the very controversial arena because where you spawned in the arena was very close to the opposition. So essentially, getting a stealth was very tough, or getting combat was a lot easier. So rogues can get a sap and stuff like that. So ultimately, it can be very detrimental to stealth characters because a Death Knight can just slap down Death and Decay immediately on the other team's platform and get a rogue out of stealth. So it's not favourable for those that use stealth, and it's got a lot of moving parts. It's got a lot of pieces that move up and down in terms of vertical cover and stuff like that. So it's an intriguing arena, and I'm quite glad that they haven't pruned it or changed it yet, from what I've seen. The show low-level quest options has been added to the minimap. That's always good. Adjustments have been made to the Emblem of Heroism quest reward implementations. Okay, not too bad. So, here are the bug fixes. So, fix the bug preventing spells with optional additional effects like Fairy Fire from being reapplied when the target is affected by certain auras. That seems really weird. That seems very weird. Casters are not using the correct glancing blow calculations for attacks. Okay, that can kind of be a bit tough to figure out, because obviously glancing blow means that you don't deal the max amount of damage, but you don't deal no damage at all. It's kind of like you go to chop off someone's arm, but you miss and you graze them and you've just sliced their arm a little bit. That's sort of a grazing blow or glancing blow. It's not, a massive blow to the enemy. It's just a little bit of damage. I'm still here, that kind of thing. Spell animation should no longer play several full loops of the animation before they disappear. Yeah. I had that kind of problem, I'm pretty sure. I tested out the beta, and I'm pretty sure I had this problem. Yes, I remember what it was. So I was doing the zombie invasion, where you can get turned into a zombie by other players, and you can go infect other people and stuff like that. And when I turned into a zombie, I had Dominoes. And Dominoes doesn't necessarily support on PTR getting a different action bar. Like you do when you hop into a vehicle in World of Warcraft, you get a different action bar. For combat vehicles, I should say. Yeah, so I pressed my number 5 ability, which is Typhoon, and it spammed it. It spammed it constantly. And it was only until I reloaded my UI, which took a while, by the way, because obviously it's spamming my ability. So I couldn't just do /reload. It was constantly trying to just press number 5. That it stopped. But I can understand why this is a bit of a problem. It's because some spells have a bigger loop. Animation loop before they finish. So like Typhoon, it's just very much you put your hands out in front and you push like a tidal wave in front of you, and you can do that multiple times. It's going to take like 5 seconds before the animations are fully over. So yeah, it kind of makes sense to get that bug fixed. For the quest, riding the red rocket, riding the rocket-propelled warhead into the enemy faction's boat would blow up the boat and provide quest credit. It's quite funny, I'm not going to lie. That's actually quite funny. Fix the bug preventing players from completing the quest City of Light. Who even wants to do that quest? That's the quest where you get where you talk to Khadgar in Shattrath City, and he summons his little blueberry, and the blueberry just escorts you around Shattrath City, explaining what the city is about, essentially. It's about an 8-minute quest of you just walking around the city with this blueberry. It's not fun, in my opinion. But you need to do it in order to get your allegiance to Aldor or the Scryer's rep. Fixed, or when you accept the emissary or the trident of Nazjan, Vija should no longer only cast a Riplash blessing on herself. It's quite funny. This is a quest where I would imagine a mob is following you or an NPC is with you as a companion and they're just spamming something on themselves. It's quite cool. When using the Argent Cannon, your targeting indicator should no longer pop to your feet at a higher angle than intended. Okay. You should no longer receive the error, "This raid is not yet available," when you try entering Blackwing Lair. I'm very confused who's trying to enter Blackwing Lair. Like on a PTR, that's something. You should no longer receive... Nope, I just read that one. Fixed a bug causing slats to often become invisible. I like that bug. That bug's kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. Harold Winston no longer sells Kirin Tor ring upgrades before the appropriate content phase. That makes sense, obviously. Enchants that provide mana every 5 seconds, MP5, should now update mana regen on the character info panel. Yeah, displaying information accurately is very good. Removed epic gems that should no longer be available until later content phase. Okay, again, makes sense. They can test that at a later date, obviously. And Naxxramas, Instructor Resuvius dying should now despawn the Death Knight understudies in the event of a wipe. Wait, so Instructor Resuvius dying should now despawn Death Knight understudies in the event of a wipe. Okay, so what? The boss was dying, but you had the understudies that hit really hard just still there, so you had to have someone permanently tank them, or you just wipe. I quite like that bug. That's quite funny. Death Knights. Death runes should no longer stay active after swapping specs. Okay, that kind of makes sense, yeah. Newly created Death Knight should no longer spam achievements to the other players in the chat window. Quite funny. Druid, Glyph of Hurricane no longer incorrectly buffs Insect Swarm and debuffs Hurricane. Hunters can no longer remove exotic pets from the stable if they are not talented into Beast Mastery. I mean, yeah, that would have been a little bit game-breaking. Priest Madaburn should now break fears as expected. Mage, amplifying buffs that increase stats after Molten Armor is already applied should not lower your critical strike chance significantly. Paladin, Greater Blessings of Sanctuary should once again be able to be cast. Wait, you literally can cast your Blessing of Sanctuary. Okay, that's pretty detrimental to prop Paladins. Warlock fixed an issue where Warlock's Drain Soul channel would incorrectly cancel if a killing blow was dealt to an enemy that was not the target of Drain Soul. That's all Warlocks not getting their soul shards. And Warriors, Slam should now correctly delay auto attack timers for the duration of Slam's cast time. Who's even using Slam as a warrior? Like, that's actually what I want to know. Who's actually using Slam as a warrior? I swear it's very, very niche and it's kind of a meme build. Oh well. So, obviously that's what is in the PTR right now and the beta. So, they're really looking at getting everything ready for the release. Obviously, Wintergraph is going to be a big thing for that, because they're not doing it as a open world event. They're doing it as you need to sign up. But I'm hoping that you can still sign up for it as you fly over the zone. Because when in Wrath of the Lich King, when it was actually out, when you flew over the zone and the game was about to start or already in progress, you could basically just keep flying in the zone and it would dismount you after a certain amount of time and you would be in that open world battleground almost, which is really cool. So it means that you have to take a detour around if you don't want to be caught up in the fight. I think that keeping it the same would have been better, in my honest opinion, but I can understand why they are doing it, mainly because the faction imbalance on a lot of servers is so heavy. So it makes sense that obviously a 99% alliance server will always have Wintergrasp, and the Horde just don't even get a look in on one of the raids essentially. So it makes sense why they're doing it as a sign up. But here we are. So, pre-patch. When does it release? What is happening after pre-patch? And just what's happening around it. So, in their official statement, Icy Winds of Northrend have begun their mournful wail, warning the heroes of Azeroth of their imminent danger of the Lich King and his scourge present to all life, and his undead scourge present to all life. Gather your allies, stock up on your supplies, and prepare to face the threat ahead. With the release of Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch, players can create their first Death Knight, take up the way of the Scribe with the Inscription profession, and experience a host of new system updates. Players in Burning Crusade Classic will get the Joyous Journeys buff to help prepare for the Wrath of the Lich King Classic. This buff will increase your experience gains by 50%. So we get this through pre-patch for Death Knights. You are allowed to have this buff for your Death Knights so that you can prepare them for Northrend. That is really good, and I really like that. That is very good. Well done there, Blizzard. So, the road ahead. To set you on your path to success, we've laid out a roadmap of the events ahead. 31st of August, pre-patch begins. This is pre-patch launch, and Fresh Realm starts go live during the maintenance. Now, obviously, the pre-patch is the 31st for EU, and I think it's also for Asian countries. Also, like Australia and stuff, get it the next day. Oceania, I believe it is. But NA will get it on the 30th when they get their weekly reset on the Tuesday, the 30th of August. A week after that, September 2nd or September 6th to the 13th, you have the Zombie Plague event. Mysterious affliction begins to make its way through the capital cities. Players must be vigilant to avoid falling victim to its deadly effects. This is the event where you can turn people into zombies and people can turn you into zombies. And there's cleansers all throughout the city. Paladins can cleanse, priests can cleanse as well, stuff like that. It becomes really fun. And honestly, it's something that I think you need to experience as just a shit show. Let the zombies run rampant. Don't try and cleanse it. It's only for a week. You have to try and enjoy this because chances are it will never happen again. Ever now. This is the last chance, in my honest opinion. It might, in like 20 years or so again, they might re Classic, you know. But in my opinion, you got to enjoy this week. September 13th to launch the Scourge Invasion event. In several locations throughout Azeroth, players must coordinate a defensive stand against the attacking Necropolis and defeat Scourge forces to gain powerful rewards. Very simple. It's kind of like the Legion event. It will have like a little skull, I imagine, in one of the zones. You go to that place and you keep the Scourge back and you get rewards for it. Very simple. September 20th to October 6th, the Brewfest begins, and this is kind of in the middle of the release. So make sure you do your Brewfest stuff before Wrath of the Lich King launches, in my honest opinion, because when Wrath launches, you will just want to be in Northrend, you know, getting them levels. September 26th, Wrath of the Lich King launches. It launched at 3 p.m. PTD. I believe that is, I want to say 11 a.m. for EU-ish, around that time. I might just be completely chatting shit there. I'm pretty sure I looked it up and that's the number that springs to mind. So I'm going to go with that. That's my gut number that I think. And obviously players are obviously going to log in on that time. October 4th and 5th, the Arena Season 5 begins. Season 5 will begin with the weekly reset. And then October 6th, you have Naxxramas, Eye of Eternity, and Obsidian Sanctum are available at once again 3 p.m. PTD. Naxxramas obviously being the giant necropolis where Kel'Thuzad is. You have obviously the Eye of Eternity, which is in Caldera, the top left of Barrene Tundra. This is a one boss raid with Malagos. And Obsidian Sanctum is a 4 boss raid, 3 mini bosses underneath Wormrus Temple. And you can get some nice mounts from that as well. But all of them are 10-man or 25-man. I'm not sure if it's heroic or normal, but I'm pretty sure they are releasing with heroic versions as well. But that is it for this week. Thank you all very much for listening, as always. Do check out all the social medias down below. Check out the Twitch, YouTube, absolutely everything. And do share this with your friends, family, whoever might be interested. It will help the podcast greatly, and I'd really appreciate it. Once again, thank you all very much for listening, and go with Valor, friend. Bye all.